innocent, no deceive the poor. Death and destruction, the baby mother breast don't cry. Yet till you plan my woes in you, every exertion, Babylon you do. Babylon you fail. Yes, you fail. Babylon you do. Babylon you fail. Yes, you fail. Building more bombs and guns, get the babies are dying from hunger. We are the victims of your oppression. Blood of the innocent that you slaughtered is upon your hands. You gave the guns, you set the fight, you sit aside and watch the slaughter. Babylon you do. Babylon you fail. Yes, you fail. Babylon you do. Your writings are on the wall now. Babylon you fail. Yes, you fail. Fire burn down low. Babylon you do. Babylon you fail. Yes, you fail. Babylon you do.
All right, wherever you are this time, it's always a pleasure to be with you each and every Sunday from just about that time. Let me say it's the 11th of June 2023, and that is where we're going to have another candid conversation this afternoon right here with you folks. So all of you who are already tuned in to the sport that you got, that is on social media, that is the sport that we normally engage you each and every Sunday from just about the 6 o'clock hour. And this afternoon is no different of a conversation we're going to have. We're going to have a very interesting conversation. First, in terms of segment number 1 for you guys, we have a young lady already here, seated and ready to go. Very erudite young lady, I must say. She will be introducing herself to you guys in just a bit as she will be taking control of the first segment. And what we are going to discuss with her this afternoon is a very innovative idea, a very innovative situation that she and some others came up with to help protect, help protect our young ones in Dominica. A tongue twister, they're lovely young ones. That is what I wanted to see initially. So she will be here and she will be telling us all about that initiative right here. In just a while, we'll be hearing from her. All right. The second segment will be going a bit deeper into our electoral matters. And so this afternoon's conversation, we're going to tell you without a shadow of a doubt just why the whole situation, a voter's ID card, it is much more apt, it is much more suitable for Dominica in terms of our electoral process. So folks, that and the first segment will be cutting it for us for this program, but I can tell you it's going to be very, very interesting in terms of information and yes, education to follow. Obviously, a little entertainment in between. And so that is how we will be doing things here this afternoon. Before I get into the panel of you who already here, the pool of you who already here on the live feed, I just want to say that this program is streamed live via Facebook and also on YouTube as well. And there are 2 telephone numbers assigned to this program that you can call in sometimes later with your comments or questions, whatever it is. or you just want your voice to be added to the program in a positive way. So these numbers, they are 245-2396. Again, let me repeat, 245-2396 or 615, that is DigiLine 9470. Any of these numbers you call, then your voice can be added or will be added to the program right here. And also we are on, every program is on podcast as well. So you can check us on our podcast way after that program is ended, just in case you missed it and you want to follow up on the conversations that we have been having right here on Civic Vibes. So again, folks, welcome. It's a pleasure to be in your company once more. Let me move across now without further ado and say hi and hello to Brother Alvin Thomas. Good evening to you, my bro.
Good evening, Lofty. Good evening. Pleasant good afternoon to you, my brother. It's been a while. I think this is what, my second Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, that I'm MIA. Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in. You know sometimes how it go. You know how it go. I think that Sunday before was Mother's Day, and you know how it goes.
Yes.
And then last Sunday I was out of town. I'm doing a little vacay out in California, which was quite nice. I must say, went to the winery area of California and drank quite a bit of wine and that area. So it was quite nice. So I'm happy to be back with the folks, our Civic Light folks, which I'm sure I've all logged in. I miss them, and I know they miss me too. But it's a pleasure to be here. This afternoon, as you said, we have two very, very pointed matters or issues for conversation. I like to use the word conversation because for our folks, we're having a conversation, and it's not necessarily a monologue or a dialogue where we're just passing through information. We want to engage our people. So, and a pleasant good afternoon to Miss Tanya. Pleasure to have you and to meet you. I've heard so much about you, and it's really great to be able to interact with you and to put a name with the face. Let me just say a pleasant good afternoon to all our listeners back home in Dominica and out of Dominica. Pleasant Sunday afternoon to each and every one of you. Those of you celebrating any special occasions today, birthdays, anniversaries, or even now you have lost a loved ones, our condolences go out to you. And to say that without you, we don't have a program. You really what makes the program. So it's really a pleasure to be here this afternoon and looking forward to a very enlightening engagement as we discuss the two issues that you mentioned, Lofty.
All right, Alvin, thank you, my brother, very, very much indeed for your opening remarks, your opening salvo, as it were. Yes, let us move across now to the lady of the hour, I call her. Let us say a hi and hello to Miss Tanya Marie. Good afternoon, Marie. Miss Marie.
Miss Marie. Oh, okay. I love tea. Hi, Alvin. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I feel very honored. One of the top Facebook shows in Dominica, let me tell you. Very informative show. Lofty, I must say. And you have a nice audience. It's good to see that, we're having different conversations and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Tanya, well, once that comes from you, Alvin, you can take a bow, Alvin, and the rest of the team, we can all take a bow.
Absolutely. Just to say very quickly though, and I'm sure you saw it, I was looking at our Facebook data stats,
yes.
And it was very impressive. At some point later on, we will look at it and, and discuss it, but it's very, very impressive. And while on that, I want to say to all the folks in Guadeloupe, St. Martin, amazing, United Kingdom. I mean, the range was so broad, people who log into the show. So I just want to say big up to all of you, yourself, throughout the region as well as internationally, who always tune into the program and to the show every Sunday.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, Tanya, let me just go through. Well, let me let you go through, just an introduction, Tanya. Just, persons have been hearing you on the radio. Alvin said a while we have been hearing a lot of you. Tanya, for those persons outside there who may not have a clue who Tanya Marie is, just, introduce yourself to our listening public and viewing public.
I mean, there's not much to say about Tanya. I'm Trinidadian. I think most people know that by now. My name is Tanya Dixon. I'm Trinidadian descent. I'm an entrepreneur. I dabble in a little bit of journalism as well. But today I'm bringing my activist side to the show. I'm a strong activist against child sexual abuse. And that's why I'm here today as an executive director of the Dominica Child Protection Society, DCPS.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Tanya, is there anywhere a Maurice in the name?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Yeah, it is Tanya Marie. Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. So it's Tanya Marie Dixon. Okay, cool. I
Yes.
thought I had it so wrong, but yeah, thanks for the correction nonetheless.
Marie,
It's
you're
Tanya Marie
right.
Dixon. Good. All right, folks. Well, yes, there you heard Tanya, and she will be talking to us in just a bit as to the conversation that we will be having together here. As I told you before, your voice can be added to that all important conversation when we take flight later as it will. But before we move across into the meat of things though, let me just touch some of you who are there already on the live feed and making some comments in one way, shape or another. We have Brian Francis. That person is saying, good evening, bro. I'm locked. Thank you very much. Pat Corbett, Lauren Lestrade. Vernie Vash is saying good evening as well. C. Gis, and I'm seeing here on the C. Gis, that is my wife's telephone's number. Someone here is saying, hi, daddy. That's my little boy, Tanya. He's saying, hi, daddy. Oh, he's watching his daddy live this afternoon. So, brother Nathan, good afternoon to you, my bro, in a very, very special way. All right. Saying hi to his daddy here through my wife's telephone. All right. So to my wife, good afternoon to you as well. And I hope that everything is okay. Carol Fontaine, you are there listening. Peter Carbon, Indira Telemac, Mali Ostri. Good evening to you, June Bernard James, Mali Ostri. Yes, you're there. Mali Ostri says, Tanya, we love our lofty, yeah? When you made that point earlier. Marshall Lawrence says, good evening, Lofty and the Civic Vibes crew, guests and audience. Thomas John, yes, Lucinda McDowell Thole, good evening. David Joseph, you're also there in the listening audience. John Harry, Marvella Defoe, Joel Ulysses, Cindy Johnson saying hi and hello as well. Manuelin Pierre, that is, Marlene Shillingford, Usila James. What's that one there? Talk 121 TLC. Some persons really have some Facebook name. Talk 121 TLC.
That's actually our ambassador, Deborah Charles Mark.
Okay,
yes.
Well, that is fine. So she's on.
Name. Yeah,
she's on. So good evening to you as well, Ambassador. Thank you very much for tuning into the program here. Nice having your fellow Tanya on the panel this afternoon. All right, let's see if we can continue here. Yufeli Vidal, that is Simeon George, Claraline Warrington, you're also there. Kelly Sanders, Owen Prosper, Petra Carbon, Dorian Dorival, Viva Mamu, good evening to you. Push past 10. I recognize that one, Tanya. Push past 10. That is Dr. Yes, that is Dr. Simon Matthew. Very good afternoon to you as well, Doc. Dorian Dorival, I mentioned your name already. Henrietta James, and the ton of you guys who are already here. Good afternoon and welcome indeed. All right, so please, as we're moving on here, share the live as we are about to have that conversation in terms of how we in Dominica can do what we can to protect our loved ones and yes, our young ones as well. So Tanya, for the conversation purposes, we're gonna keep it sort of, informal. So Tanya, is it? Yes. Thank you again, Tanya, for taking time off and being here with us this afternoon. That idea that we spoke of in private, you said that you want to take it public in terms of how you and 3 or 4 other persons are helping to protect our young and vulnerable children in Dominica. Let's get it off the ground now.
Okay. Well, I think I should start by, letting people know who we are.
Yes.
DCPS, Dominica Child Protection Society. People probably wondering, I haven't heard that one before. Okay, we're fresh. But it started, the idea of it started when Kanisha Etienne went missing. We just celebrated not celebrated, I hate to say that, but we remembered, acknowledged, yes, we remembered, the anniversary of Kanisha. It still shakes me up a bit. But it started back then, 2022 June, our founder, Dr. Simone Matthew, she was actually visiting Dominica. She's a daughter of the soil. She's based in Atlanta, but she was visiting Dominica at that point in time when Kanisha went missing. The actual day Kanisha went missing, she touched down in Dominica. And so it struck a chord with her, you know, that this is getting really out of hand. You know, the abuse of our children going missing, you know, the lack of care we're seeing for our children, our youth in Dominica. And so we like to say that is the catalyst. That's that incident, that horrific incident with Kanisha Etienne is a catalyst for, you know, DCPS being formed. Right now, it's 4 core members: Dr. Simone Matthew, we have Dr. Shamina Obushon, Deborah Charles Mark, who is an ambassador, and myself as an executive director. Yeah. So we started June 2022. And basically, what we decided was to have an approach we call CPR. C to represent counseling, you know, for those who have been victimized. P is for protection, which is brought about by educating our children. And then R, which is the reporting process. We think those 3 aspects are very important. Right? And they do exist now, you know, we have counseling and we have people educating and we have reporting, but we feel like we needed to add more resources to the fight. And that's why we call it a society. Right? We are trying to work with the other organizations out there. It's not a standalone. We very much acknowledge the work that has already been done by many individuals, by many organizations, counselors out there in Dominica, trying their best to protect the children. So we're hoping that we can all collaborate, come together. DCPS wants to add resources to the fight. Yeah. So that's where we are. And last year we had a great year. For the summer, we had an interactive reading program. We went out there into summer camps mainly to read. And you're probably wondering, what were we reading? I think some of your listeners or your viewers checked out that book, If You Touch, I'll Tell. That book was written by Dr. Shamina Obushon, a Dominican as well, who is a survivor of child sexual abuse here in Dominica. And after all this time, she has written an amazing book for children on how to build their voice power and how to deactivate the predators. So we use that book as a tool in our facilitations when we go to more younger kids, you know, for the 5 to 7-year-olds, teaching them how to use their voice power, reminding them that, you know, you may be 5 years old, you know, you may be young, your body may be small, but your voice is mighty. Your voice is mighty. And you can use that to push that predator away, to deactivate that predator. And so we're trying to remind our children of their power, empowering them. Yeah.
So where, Tanya, if someone is listening on me want to put their hands on that book, where can they find that book?
Well, you can go on to Dr. Shamina's website, ifyoutouchilltell.com. We are as well trying to bring some books in. It's going to be part of our summer contribution. We're trying our best. It's all dependent on the sponsorship. But if you'd like to purchase a book, you can go to the website, ifyoutouchilltell.com. And make sure I have it right for you guys. Yes, ifyoutouchilltell.com. And you can purchase it there. You have hardcovers as well as the paperbacks. There's also a lot of extra supplies like buttons and stickers and you know, charts for the kids to empower them and to remember, you know, that their voice is mighty.
Okay. What are the age ranges we're looking at roughly in terms of that initiative, in terms of the children?
Right. Well, let me tell you about, I didn't even touch on that much, right? This summer, we're going in again to the summer camps. We're going into the established camps. So it's not us having a summer camp. We're going into camps that are already registered to facilitate a session to children between the ages 5 to 16. We do break them up because we know the younger kids, they don't have attention spans like the older kids. And, you know, they need less intricacy, less complicated stuff, right? So 5 to 16 is our target group, right? And we're touching on topics like, let me let you know, because I think it's important. A lot of people ask this question, like, what are they going to be talking about? Well, we're going to be talking about who or what this abuser looks like, their strategies, with a lot of emphasis on online grooming. As we all know, online grooming is that thing now.
Yeah.
It's that big thing. That's where a lot of the predators are online. All of our children, they're online on social media, and there are a lot of predators out there using it because it's good for the secrecy,
True.
the anonymity. Nobody has to know who I am. I can act like a 16-year-old when I'm really 50 years old, and I can lure in, a young person. So we're touching on topics, as I said, for who are the abusers, the strategies they use, online grooming. We're looking at how to report, the effects and signs of child sexual abuse, so that children can know, maybe my friend is going through something, this may be it. How can I assist my friend? Parents as well I'm hoping they go home and teach their parents. I'd love to do something with parents too, but I feel like it's good let's start with the kids. We need them to have a voice. Reporting, as I said, and this year we're including something even more, which we thought was very important, that Deborah Charles-Mark would be facilitating, which is teaching them like EFT techniques, tapping techniques. I don't know if you all heard of it before, to help you with, anxiety and fear. So you know how to calm yourself, how to gather yourself, how to get through, coping techniques. So that's basically what the program is going to be about from the 14th to the 18th, 14th of July to the 18th of August. We're going around the island. So we're hoping summer camps, the coordinators would reach out to us, book your day, book your session. It's already getting booked up. So I'm letting you all know. And we're also doing this all by, the love and the support of sponsors. So sponsors are helping us get through this, to get us to as far as Posse, as far as Kalinago territory, wherever we need to go and facilitate. We want to do this, and sponsors are helping us. If you would like to help us, sponsor a session, sponsor keepsakes, because we're hoping to give the children some stickers or badges that say things like, if you touch, I'll tell. Please get in touch with us, in touch with us. You can call me. I can give out my number, but I'm afraid, last time I gave out my number, Lofty boy, problems.
Problems. You might have to employ some of those techniques you're giving out.
But you can definitely get in touch with us at pushpast10. Let me get the right email. I don't want to give out the wrong email, because I tend to do that sometimes. It's pushpast10media@gmail.com.
Pushpast10media@gmail.com.
Let me make sure.
Okay.
My people in the chats, y'all could type that in. Type in the email address so I'll be sure of it.
All right. Whilst they're typing that in there, the ambassador is saying in terms of just in terms of helping the conversation. She said, first of all, prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
And also emotional freedom techniques.
Yes.
I guess these are some of the situations that you'll be touching on.
Yeah, I really like the idea that we've included her to give the emotional freedom techniques, because I think what we're seeing, we're wondering, well, why this child is not saying anything? Why are children not saying anything? I don't think people understand how to say it, how scared, how you feel like you're boxed in or jailed in. And so you're afraid, you don't know how, you don't know what words to use. You don't know how to express something to an adult, a trusted adult, when, you're being abused.
Yes.
So those techniques that Deborah would be teaching is to really help children, regulate those emotions and find ways to find that peace, that calm, to express themselves. True. Or to release the anger, to release the anxiety.
True. Well, you being there, Tanya, is already reaping results in that Mali Ostri is saying here, my 9-year-old that is with her listening to the program is saying good program on child abuse.
Yeah, that's really nice. I appreciate that. I hope I'll be coming to a summer camp near Marley's her grandson, you said, or her son?
Most likely is a granddaughter, most likely.
Granddaughter.
Based on my interpretation of it.
All right. I hope I come to a summer camp near you.
Yeah. The email address that you were looking for a while ago is pushpast10@gmail.com.
Pushpast10@gmail.com. If you're looking to book a session with us for your summer camp, if you're looking to sponsor, you can just send an email there.
And also the number for contacting you guys, this 277-2776, yes?
Right, or 616-0954.
Cool.
I'm giving the number. 616-0954.
Hold on, let me just take that 616
09
54, because I know some persons will be calling me and say, what did the young lady say the number was again? All right, Brother Alvin Thomas, you have been there listening to this great idea of how to protect our children, how these young people are helping protect our children in Dominica. Any thoughts based on what you heard thus far, bro?
Well, I must say that is a very, very necessary, innovative and initiative being undertaken by the DCPS. I know Dr. Simon Matthew personally, and we both collaborate on other issues. So I know how passionate she is about that particular issue as it relates to children. So I want to begin by saying congratulations to Tanya, you and your team, for undertaking that initiative. I think we need to, one of the things that I believe we have to, and not just to this particular issue, but even other issue, we must move past the talk and do the act, take action. And that is exactly what I'm saying there, that there's action being taken as it relates to this issue. That is not to say that we should not continue having dialogue and conversation, but I think sometimes we tend to focus so much on conversation, dialogue, and you don't see any real action taking place. So I'm happy to hear that come July, August, there will be a camp undertaken in that regard. One of the other areas which maybe Tanya can speak to is that in terms of collaborative approach, because as she rightly said, there are other organizations or institutions, whether government or non-government, that are engaged in addressing this matter. But there's a lot to be done still. So to what extent that DCPS is collaborating, and I'm saying that against the background of data or statistics. We hear this thing, and is it as bad as we think, or is there data that drives and say, well, hey, this is what the limited data that we have shows as it relates to that. And one other point, which I know I'm trying to give Tanya a lot to address at one point, but one other area has to do with the gender. A lot of times when you hear about that, it tends to suggest maybe more of the young girls as against the young boys, or focus maybe not as placed much on the young boys, but what about the abuse of young boys as well? So I just wanted to see if they have gotten that far already, and I know they're new and they have a lot on their plate, but if they have gotten that far in just addressing some of the issues that I've just raised.
Okay. Well, the first one you touched on, collaboration. We actually have a meeting this week. We're very much reaching out to all the other organizations, the psychosocial society, but all the what you call them, the counselors that go to the schools or work on their own. We're reaching out to them, building our own database so that we can share, with the campers that we come in contact with, and hopefully the parents as well. I think the thing is with collaboration, we're a bit disconnected. I feel like that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because we have some that may be working on the law side of things, the legal aspect, how we could make things different there for our children and making sure they're much more protected and cared for. And then there are others like us that want to go out there and educate our children, because for me in particular, I'll tell you, I find that we're missing that. I think we kind of like pussyfoot around the topic. We're afraid to speak to our children about this topic. And I think that's where we're falling short. I feel that's where we are actually causing our children to be victims of sexual abuse, because we're not being open to speak to them about this so that they can learn and protect themselves. So there are others, there are different groups doing different things, but it's all with the same objective, which is good. And I'm hoping we can have more of that collaboration in time to come. Right? Statistics. That's a good one. The last report I read was 2017. It was the OECS assessment of child protection services. And they were they were suggesting that a lot of work needs to be done to our child protection services. I don't think anything much has been done. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think any of the suggestions in that report were really taken seriously, or any action has been really taken. It just seems as though we don't put enough attention or even funding resources into gender affairs. I don't think we really do that. So that's my take on the statistics and the collaboration. Did I miss something?
Well, the last one had to do with the boys and girls. Boys and girls.
Boys and girls. I think because we are, I don't like to say this, but we have a culture in Dominica. It seems as though a lot of us think this thing is normal, child sexual abuse. And so we'd find now too that to hear boys are being abused is like, nah, man, that can't be happening. We don't do these things. But there are lots of boys being abused as well. And again, the culture of, well, look, if you're a boy, you shouldn't really cry, you shouldn't really complain, you shouldn't really, say these things are happening to you, you should be strong. I think boys are hiding a lot more of their pain, a lot more of their abuse than girls. But I am quite sure, because I've heard, that boys are suffering the same fate as girls. So with our facilitation, I'm ensuring that I want boys and girls. Yeah, yes, boys indeed. And girls. I'm hoping to see a lot of boys come out. I'm hoping to have great conversation. I'm hoping to create that safe space for our boys, because I don't think we do that enough for our boys.
Yeah, Tanya, just to ask you a question there, how serious? I know you touched on it, but just give the public the gravity of the situation we're facing, based on your knowledge, that is, as it pertains to our serious situation of not being able as a country, as communities, as families, to protect one of the most vulnerable group among us, that is our young children. In terms of situations that you have been hearing on the ground or being witness to, or, when you go wrong, how serious of a concern that is?
I think we should just take the incident we just saw in Portsmouth the other day. Mm-hmm. That should just be enough for us to understand how serious it is, where we were given information about somebody's situation for how long as a child into adulthood.
True.
And I'm sure this is a small country. We all know, we all see these things. Sometimes we know our neighbor is happening there, it's going on there. Or we know the person in work, in school, and we don't see anything. We don't need anybody to tell us statistics, We're seeing it on the news. We're seeing things happening. It should tell you, but this is crazy. Children are suffering, and our authorities, I'm going to be honest, I don't think they're doing enough. I don't think enough is being done in terms of, taking children from places of danger and making sure they're safe. putting them there, putting them somewhere that is safe. You know, I don't think we're doing enough, and as a community, you know, standing up and speaking out. Okay, we're all not doing enough. We're not doing enough. So I don't think anybody has to present. I don't know if we can present statistics. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
it's in our
Your
face. It's
yes,
in our face.
your ambassador is strengthening the point in that she's basically saying here that we need a family court and also a sexual abuse register to, you know, sort of keep tabs where we at with that scourge.
You know, I agree with those things a lot, but I feel like that's why I said everybody has their different ideas of how to approach the issue. But I am, in my heart and in my gut, it's really important that we reach children, because I feel like the adults right now are failing the children. We need to empower these children, give them a voice to say, hey, stop it. Hey, I don't like it. I feel then maybe we'll see less. We'll see less of these incidences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you'd show on the family to help strengthen that call as well, huh?
Of course, I do.
Reinforce, yeah.
Of course I do. But this is just the routes that, for me personally, I'd like to take. I love those who are going after the legal, you know, looking at the laws and stuff like that. But I can't sit down forever and wait for changes there. You know, I need to get out there and go about it the way I think is best. And I'm glad Simone reached out to me, you know, with the forming of DCPS, because I was like, I think that is a great idea. DCPS should go out there. Let's get into the faces of the children, remind them of how sacred their body is, how beautiful they are, how worthy they are of love and respect.
Yes, yes.
Because I don't think they know that. I don't, and maybe then they would start to speak up. And I always say too, we can have lots of courts and laws, but I don't think law makes people stop doing crimes. It's morality that does that. You could have how much law? It might, yes, mitigate some things, but people still commit crimes. People still do bad things.
Yeah, that is true. And especially where you have a society where the laws are not respected or they're enforced. It's like any other legislation on the book. You might have, let's say, the Litter Act that say you should not litter, but you walk around Rosa and the whole place is littered with everything. So it's enforcement. But let me ask you, Tanya, as well. I know the focus is on the children and empowering them, but there are parents involved as well. The children have parents.
Yes.
So what kind of approach or awareness, if any, does your society intends to do as it relates to the parent part?
Yeah. But we haven't reached there yet.
No. And yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We haven't reached to that planning for the parents as yet. You know, our focus has been reaching out to the children. I feel like we keep leaving the children out of the conversation. So that's our focus right now. But I am sure we'll get to that part of reaching out to the parents to remind them of their responsibility, you know, to their children. I think you're muted, Alvin. Yeah.
Alvin, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
Yes.
I was saying I'm asking so against the background of one of the comments made by one of our persons there, which says the adults have always been failing the children. It was once said that it takes a village to raise a child, but for generations, the village has been failing the children by turning a blind eye to the abuse. So it was against that background I was asking to what extent, you know, some sort of awareness need to be brought to the parent.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that we should just not focus on the parents. We definitely need to. I think that's going to require a lot more thinking, working out an entire, you know, because I can tell, I already know, I should say that a lot of parents are going to be reluctant, you know, to attend some type of session, to really have real talk about these types of things. The children are so, children have this innocence where
Yes.
they're just very open. They
They're
speak
open.
their mind,
True.
they have that, they're open to things. But I feel like we, the adults, we are the ones that are so scared to have these conversations.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I'm sure we will get to that point, in our process. I'm sure we will, but right now we're focused on reaching the children.
Yeah, it's already 20 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock, folks. We are here talking to Miss Tanya Dixon, talking about an all-important conversation, all-important situation in Dominica, and yes, across the region as well, across the world, it's a scourge, but we are in Dominica, and so that is where our focus is this evening in terms of just what we can do to protect our children among us. And so, yes, Tanya is representing herself very well here in terms of what she and other persons are involved in that initiative will be setting out to do in a not too distant future. So folks, the numbers to call, just in case you want to add your voice to the conversation, these numbers are 245-2396 or 615-9470. Again, it is 245-2396 or 615-9470. We'll be winding down with Tanya in just like 15 minutes time. But Tanya, there's a comment here from Ezra Winston, which says, she's saying to teach the kid to stop, to say stop, sorry. But saying stop means the damage has already been done. I think we need to teach them to be aware of the dangers and look for signs that would alert them before they fall prey. It ends by saying, before the act is performed.
Very true. And that's exactly what we're doing at DCPS. When we go out to facilitate, like I said earlier, we're going to teach about the effects, the signs of child abuse, child sexual abuse. We're going to teach the children about what the abuser can look like, who the abuser can be, because we have this idea that abusers are always strangers. And that has been proven to be a lie.
True, very well.
Most of the abusers are people that we know.
Even family members.
Family members. So we're going out there to teach that. Who are the abusers? The strategies they use.
Or even the friends that come over ever so often.
Right. So I totally agree with Ezra. It's like prevention. That is our idea. Prevention. Before we have to, put find a band-aid and put on the sore, and because you don't ever get over this experience. You don't ever get over being sexually abused. You have to live with it every day.
True. Talking about that, let me just reinforce the point that you're making, Tanya, in that persons who go through this trauma, especially when they're young, they never, ever forget these things. I was talking to a young lady, she's an adult now, and the young lady said, Lofty, we lived in this, sort of close-knit neighborhood kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And it is a custom in Dominica. I know we have sort of drifted a little, but it used to be a custom before that on the weekends, especially the Sundays, the people in a village would just go out and check each other. They would dress up and that one going by that one and hi, hello, how are you? And so that was the situation then. And this lady said, Lofty, this gentleman, religiously, he came to my parents' home. Every Sunday, well-dressed, your family friend, they would eat, drink, be merry as it were. And one of his objectives for coming to that house every Sunday was to basically abuse her. And she tried on a number of occasions to tell her mother, but it's like that just wasn't sinking in. Mm-hmm. The mother just couldn't comprehend that Mr. So-and-so, his objective of coming to our house every Sunday was to do me that, to touch my private part, to touch my, whatever it is, and to have me in that kind of a frenzy. And so sometimes, yes, as you said before, some persons, they die with those memories, those bitter memories. And some persons are affected for life. They cannot cope with their children or even their loved ones or even a lover. Some women have that kind of thing about when they go through that situation, it is very hard to adapt to a male figure in their life who maybe really truly love them now, but because of that scourge they've gone through before, it is so sad. So, I just said that to sort of, reinforce what you said before.
You're right. You're that. And sometimes, some of us don't even remember until later down the line, you find you have these weird dreams. There are lots of ways that this trauma can affect you. You can just suppress it so much you forget. And then as you get older, you're having these
flashbacks.
visions, and you don't know why. You don't know why. What is happening? And yes, you probably, like you said, some children, they get very, what's the word? I guess very expressive sexually when they experience abuse. Some become introverted. So there's different ways that people cope with being abused. And all of that is going to be taught. So children can have an eye out for their friends as well. Yeah. I know, I saw it in a session already, girls, they did not want to say, but they were there like protecting their friend. They knew what was up, They knew. It's so important for us to teach our young ones the signs, the effects. We're seeing some of our children, they're so young and they're already consuming so much alcohol or smoking lots of marijuana or cigarettes or whatever. You never know why. They're trying to cope. There are lots of effects and sorry, I forgot the word, but lots of effects that child abuse can bring, and we need to be more open-minded to it. I would hope we can reach the parents, but right now my mission is the children, because I'm just seeing that we need them to have a voice.
True.
We need them to have a voice.
Yes, it is 10 to 7. We have somebody on the line. Caller, good evening to you and welcome to the Civic Vibes program.
Good evening. A very powerful show indeed. A much needed show. I am Deborah Charles Mark, Top 121 TLC ambassador. Oh, shucks. We're getting a little feedback here. Ooh. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we are hearing you loud and clear. Yes, go right on.
Sweet. So it's a rather exciting. I'm not getting a good feedback here. Yes, it's a rather exciting time to be part of this whole. I'll have to call you back on my mobile phone. I'm on the landline and give me some feedback.
Okay, no problem, caller. Try calling us back. Thank you very much. But we were hearing you loud and clear. But please do that before the next 10 minutes, and that is where we have to wrap it up in a while. But Thomas, you're there.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, I think Tanya has been addressing the issues and pointing out the concerns very, very clearly. She's quite articulate in what they intend to do. Just quickly though, in terms of the resource persons who will be undertaking that camp, I take it, of course, they have to be at some level of professional in terms of providing that. So
right.
Could you just share briefly on that?
Okay, so facilitators right now is myself. I am a life coach. I have life coach certification. I actually pursued that to deal with my own encounter with child sexual abuse. And then we have Deborah Charles Mark, who is the CEO and the wellness coach of Let's Talk One-to-One, right? So she engages with psychosocial support through holistic life coaching. She also facilitates a program called Trilogy to Happiness, which teaches persons the techniques to manage stress and to fight depression, anxiety, shame. Exactly what I told you about with the EFT tapping, for the kids. So we will be facilitating the program. We may have some more coming on, depending on the level of, how much work we have. But it has always been myself and Deborah. So that's how we're going forward for this summer as well. I heard you saying, Alvin, a summer camp. It's not a summer camp. It's actually just a program we've created, and we're reaching out to the summer camps.
Okay.
So we're going to them to facilitate the program.
Okay.
Yes. And let me just run through again. I know we're running out of time, so people can, be updated. The program is called Summer Camp Tour, Speak Up, Stay Safe. And it's going to be facilitated during the period of July 14th to August 18th, right? you can just call us, myself or Deborah. Our number is 616-0954. Or you can reach Deborah. That's my number. Reach Deborah at 277-2776. Or you can email pushpast10@gmail.com. Right? And you just call us, the summer camp coordinators, to book your days between the 14th of July to the 18th of August. Let us know the information of, your age group. Yeah. Boys, girls, that type of information. And we're going to make it happen. I think every summer camp should have this session included. It's fun to make arts and crafts and to, learn some type of trade. All of that is great too. But I think we also need to focus on educating our children how to protect themselves from child sexual abuse. I think it's important that we do that. So let's have the summer camp coordinators reach out and book a session with us at
Yes,
DCPS.
indeed. Indeed. All right, we are waiting on some telephone calls now, or we'll be going through some comments in just a bit. But whilst we wait here, it's already 8 minutes to that good old hour of 7 o'clock. Let's take this very famous song from none other than Tasha P. She sang this one sometime back entitled "Let the Children Be Children." A very, very apt song for the discussion we're having here.
All-time favorites. Gotta love it. Hey, so Dina today, Dina today, day. That's it right there. With cultural change and technology, we don't seem to mind that our children are all grown up way before their time. Society doesn't draw a clear distinction between the behavior appropriate for adults and for children. Parents should develop an eye for what their child is absorbing. They need to control the flow of material that is influencing. Because children don't play children games anymore. It's uncensored music, TV, and the streets they're going for. But I pray one day we revert to the good old days when children were children and innocence prevailed.
Yes, indeed, and innocence prevailed. That was back then, huh?
So we need to let our children be children. Let them play for the sake of play.
Very powerful line indeed. Let the children be children, huh?
From complications of adulthood. Shield them from this brutal world and let them thrive as children should. Let's let our children be children. Let them play. Let them enjoy today.
Yes, indeed, folks. Let's get back to the live panel here. Miss Tanya, you'd agree with Tasha P 110%, right? Let our children be children.
Of course. That song reminds me of our tagline for DCPS. It says, because it shouldn't hurt to be a child. That's our tagline for DCPS. It shouldn't hurt to be a child. And nowadays in Dominica, it seems as though it hurts to be a child.
Yes, indeed. Well, yeah. Tanya, we are down to the wire there. We are down to the wire in terms of time. 4 more minutes with you. But Ferdinand Lawrence is writing here. Thank you, Tanya, for such a powerful program. Something we should all get behind and support.
Thanks, Ferdinand.
Yeah, and a number of other comments. Basically, persons are enjoying the conversation. They're liking what is being said here this afternoon. But again, we'll just give you the final moments, Tanya, to just sort of, ask for the help if help is needed, and just reach out in terms of trying to make that thing work for our children.
Before Tanya respond, Lofty, I'm just saying the ambassador is also making a comment there that we are also opening it to schools or any youth clubs throughout Dominica. Because that was a question I had to ask Tanya, to what extent are they collaborating with the schools? Because of course the summer camp or whatever they're doing through the summer camp is just that period. But as ongoing, what about the schools and the other youth clubs? So in her closing, if she might want to just touch on that a bit.
Right. Now, the schools are a little bit complicated. Yeah. We have been speaking with a particular school, but it's always a time issue. I'm going to be very honest. So you have to find time within the school day. Thus far for the summer program, I've reached out to schools to see if we can go in, as exams are finished, like probably grade 6 and stuff, we'd be able to go in now when they have all that free time to facilitate. But doing this during the regular school term, it's kind of complicated because time has to be made for it to be done, right? And of course, it has to go through a whole procedure of getting us there, right, into the schools. So it takes a little longer. And I think Lofty knows me. I like to hit the ground running. I don't want to talk too much. I want to get out there and reach the children. So instead of, getting stuck there, we're going to keep working at that, trying to get into the schools, but we're going to reach out to our summer camps this summer, just like we did last summer, and see if we can reach more camps around the island. So I'm really happy for everybody who's locked on today for Civic Vibes. Just to remind you all that this summer DCPS is doing the summer camp tour. Speak Up, Stay Safe. That's the name of it. It's going to be facilitated between July 14th to August 18th. And what we're expecting, it's going to be done on the grounds of the summer camps throughout Dominica. Summer camp coordinators can reach out to us. Just email pushpast10@gmail.com, or you can call 616-0954 or 277-2776. And if you'd like to come on board and be a sponsor to make this happen, I mean, if you really are a leader in your community and you're committed to ensuring our children are protected, come on board and let's work together. You can sponsor a session. You can use the same numbers, 616-0954 or 277-2776 or pushpast10@gmail.com.
We'll give you a little time extra, Tanya, just to go over that, but we have someone on the line. Caller, good evening to you. Welcome to the program.
Yes, Lofty, good afternoon and to you and Tanya.
Yes.
And Alvin. Lofty, Tanya is my ex-girlfriend, she don't even know me, but yeah, I just called to say thank you to her because I know she always passionate about our children, and that is an area where our society really, really needs some help. True. And I hope Tanya get all the help and the assistance and the support she needs to go ahead and push with this program, Lofty, because we always complain, but nobody don't want to do the work, and it's just so refreshing to see that Tanya getting to help our little children, man. It's very important to me, and I know many people feel that way too, because it looks like nobody don't care for those children. Nobody don't care, As she said, society is really letting them down, but there are good folks that will do what they can. So I just wish her the best. Tanya, that's your boy, your ex-boyfriend. So long I don't hear, I don't see. I was wondering what's going on with her since she left that program on cue with the other side. But, good advocate for the kids and kudos, my blessings. And if she has to do anything in terms of support, she could always let us know. We could send 50 cents or 25 cents, put it together. Maybe she might get $1 because all those programs need finance, Lofty, in terms of the travel, gas, fuel is maybe $12, $13 a gallon. Anyway, I just want to say thank you. That's the bottom line.
All right, my brother. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for your comments and your solidarity message with the program. Tanya, yes, your final thoughts. I see you smiling, Tanya.
I just want to say, people, let's get serious about protecting our children. We don't want to have these incidences just, yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it just tears me up when I see these types of incidences of children being killed, children being abused. But it doesn't only have to be sexually, just abuse of our children. You know, it really hurts me. And I want us to, let's mitigate these issues. And I'm hoping that you will see that DCPS has a great offering, a great initiative, and everybody comes on board. It's called Speak Up, Stay Safe. It's our summer camp tour. We're going to all, if we can, all of the summer camps throughout Dominica. Just call us. You all know the number, 616-0954, or you can call us at 277-2776, or email pushpast10 at gmail.com. Book your session at your summer camp. Let us come in there and teach the children about the abusers, their strategies, online grooming. Let's teach the children how to speak up, how to identify signs of child sexual abuse. Yeah, so I'm hoping everyone comes on board.
All right, Tanya, thank you very much on behalf of the Civic Vibe team and the many folks listening and watching as well. We want to thank you for taking time off your Sunday and coming to help us understand much more of that initiative that is afoot to help us protect our children in Dominica.
Thanks.
And let me just say, Tanya, that Civic Vibes is available and open for follow-up conversation.
True, yes.
It certainly cannot be a one-time conversation. It has to be ongoing.
True.
So we are there to collaborate with you to bring that awareness out there on that very, very important issue.
Thank you very much for the support, guys. And it was a great conversation.
And on that note, Glenda Lavi Dubuton sums it up very well. She said here, much needed conversation. Thanks. Okay, Tanya, go enjoy what is left of your evening. And thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
All right, Tanya, you take care. All the best.
Then they want to fool us and rule us and give secret deals to make your friends prosperous. We want ministers to walk in town, keep in touch with the common man, and remember who put him in his position. But you know, all they do is travel, spending and come back with nothing. They must deal prudently with the country's money. Whoa, that's responsibility and accountability. Next time you see election time coming.
All right, Dominica, that's it. We are done with the first segment right here with Tanya Dixon.
Then I won't have to put on no badge.
Very candid conversation indeed we just had.
Again next time.
Talking about the protection of our young ones.
No, we ain't a man.
So yes, give them all the support you can.
Then I must confess. This is no joke.
Let us help eradicate that scourge in Dominica of child sexual abuse. Child abuse on a whole.
Give me back my phone. Give me back my phone.
Tanya, you and your team, thank you very much. Looking forward to you guys doing good things and big things for us in Dominica.
You couldn't keep it.
It is 5 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. And yes, Brother Observer is talking about giving him back his vote.
Back my vote. Give me back my vote. Oh God.
And the conversation up next with Brother Zed Lloyd and Alvin and myself.
This is no joke.
And of course you as well. We're going to switch gear or veer off into our electoral process, our whole old electoral process, I must add.
You make a fool of me. This is no joke.
Much talk and more talk.
And give me back my vote. Give me back my vote. Give me back
But we need action in that department, Dominicans. We need action ASAP.
We trade a promise for a vote.
So this afternoon's conversation, we're going to zero in on the voter's ID card. That card that is the much needed card for our electoral process.
My vote.
Give me back my vote.
And yes, Brother Zed Lloyd is there. He will be basically adding his voice to the conversation that we're about to have here in just a bit. It's 6 minutes past 7 o'clock. Let me see if we have Zed Lloyd here. Zed, are you there with us?
Yeah, Lofty.
There's a lot of glare. You have a light on you.
All right, give me a second.
Yeah. You're looking too white. We don't want you in the cloud. We want you in the flesh tonight.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little, yes, a little better. Much better. Yes, much better.
All right.
All right, Zed, well, brother, you are no stranger to the Dominican public. You're no stranger to Civic Vibes. That space, we normally lock it down each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock. It is 7 past 7. And so we're there to have that conversation against Zed about our country. So you know, we know you're a man. Anytime you touch down, as it were, then persons must listen. Zed, without further ado, you know, for persons out there who may I say don't know who Zed Lloyd is, just give us a little, you know, background, as it was said.
Oh boy, Lofty, it's a long story.
A struggle, long struggle. Story. Yeah,
you know, did the basics, you know, did the teaching, did the, you know, I'm a college dropout, you would say, presidential scholar, you know, who choose to study about God instead of studying mathematics, you know? So it's one of those things. I consider myself a revolutionary. I grew up on the teachings of revolutionary teachings, you know, had some good time with Brother Kwame Ture, you know, for the All African People's Revolutionary Party, which really taught me how to, you know, do revolutions, how to do social struggle, how to agitate, how to advocate, how to change the dynamic, you know, in a social structure. You know, I've been trained in that. And so there are certain fundamental things, and sometimes I think that gets in the way of the people down there because I call but if you know, you have to teach, you know? If you know, you have to teach. There's certain fundamental aspects of struggle that you have to structure in order for your struggle to succeed. Fundamental things. And I think I come into contention with that in Dominica a lot of times because, you know, people say you're not on the ground and you're not on the ground, but it has nothing to do with being on the ground. It has nothing to do with being, there's enough people on the ground. If we can sit down and use this medium and organize the things properly in advance, especially in advance, you know, one of the most critical things I learned, you know, under my time in the All African People's Revolutionary Party while going to college, you know, in Atlanta, was how critical it is that people have information. People have information, not song bites, information, dialectical analysis, looking at things in a spherical manner. When you give the citizen a spherical assessment of a situation, you empower them, even before you ask them for their support. And that's one of the most critical things I was taught. You know, I went to the Martin Luther King, you know, place back in the day while being at Georgia Tech. I studied the concept of nonviolence and how critical it is. And so I think Dominica is at that juncture where all of these things can come together. A nonviolent empowerment of our citizens, but through a civic process. And that's why I'm happy that Civic Vibes is alive. That's why I'm happy there are groups like CCM. That's why I'm happy that there's some, even Tanya today is another movement towards civic empowerment. It is civic empowerment that is absent in Dominica, and political polarization wins. It is civic advocacy that is absent. That's why there's nothing about Kenesha and people are still in politics. It's civic, you know, action that is lacking. That's why still arguing over electoral reform, and it cannot happen because folks are choosing political polarization over their civic duty. So I think what needs to happen, and this window that is given us in this electoral reform is a good window. And like I always say, I don't think we've used it because we're still waiting on Byron. We're not presenting alternatives to Byron. I think we have to have the conversation. We know what's coming down the pipeline. We need to be advocating the alternatives that we think are beneficial for Dominica than those of Byron. And I don't think we spend enough time in that kind of conversation. The ID is critical. The ID is critical because no matter what ID you have, if we do not have electoral reform, that ID is still useless. It is still useless, although you get to present it. But we must address electoral reform. We must address these specifics. We must address the diaspora. We must address our citizens in what Byron is trying to put together. If we do not have alternatives to Byron, you know, where we are. And so I hope we can touch a little bit on those things this afternoon, enlighten the people, and let us try and bring specifics, man, you know, bring specifics. It is important. When people get specifics, they get empowered, you know?
True. All right, Brother Zed, thank you very, very much indeed, my brother. As we go deeper into the program, then much more information will be divulged here. I can attest to that. Mr. Thomas, you're there listening. You have been on the roller coaster ride, as it were, for free and fair process in Dominica for some time. We have been there playing our part as Civic Vibes. Zed have been there a number of times with us. What new in terms of information, Alvin? Especially the one we are zeroing on in tonight, read the identification aspect for Dominicans in that process. What new can we bring to the table tonight?
Well, thanks, Lofty, and let me say good evening to my brother Zed. Always good to have you in the dialogue and the conversation. Good to have you, bro. I think Zed made a couple points here which I could maybe touched on, in addition to what I would like to comment as it relates to the particular subject matter that we're looking at. And that has to do with civic engagement, civic empowerment and action. And he's absolutely right on target with that. I think that may be the missing element in terms of how do we as a people become engaged, become active, become empowered. And of course, he made mention of the fact of information, which goes hand in hand with education. When you're informed, you can make an educated decision. So I think those are two areas that are very important. As it relates to the whole question of electoral reform, and I want to say electoral reform, because we've heard some persons saying, well, I want to call it electoral modernization. Some might say semantics. It's a play on words. Just as we will see in a few, the question of national ID as against voters' ID. Oh, that's semantic, it's a play on words. But no, it's not a play on words. It's much deeper than that. And that is where the whole question of information education comes into play as well. I always like Lofty, and some of our listeners may have heard me on that before. Lofty, we have as a people, as Dominicans, we have a document known as our Constitution. As a people. The strange thing about it is that the folks who gave us independence and told us, well, go ahead and become an independent nation and do your own thing, which is the UK, United Kingdom, don't have a written constitution. They go by all sorts of conventions, norms, practices, you name it, what the king said, the first king, the second king, the third king, and all sorts of, you know, norms or whatever you want to call it that they use. But we have what is called a written constitution. And our constitution, the constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica, starts off by saying, whereas the people of Dominica, meaning we the people, that's in the preamble. And it ends in that same preamble and say, now therefore, the following provisions shall have effect as the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So it embodies the people. And it goes on with all the various other sections, how legislature should be, how this should be, how electoral commission should be, the whole 9 yards, okay? And the reason why I'm saying that, Lofty, goes back to what Brother Zeda just said a while ago, information education. A lot of us just even from the top, you will hear a statement being said, no law, no constitution will allow me to do or say what I have to do. Now, where a particular law is enacted and it is inconsistent with the Constitution takes precedent. So if the legislation, you pass a law in Parliament, and for some reason there are elements of that law that is not consistent with the Constitution, it is not a law. The Constitution takes precedent. And I'm saying that to say, Lofty, that under Section 38 of the Constitution, which deals with who or what authority shall be responsible for elections, as well as Section 51 of the Constitution that speaks to the whole question and the role of the Electoral Reform Commission, the specific question that we are discussing tonight, which as it relates to voters' ID. Voters' ID, I'm not calling it national ID, and then we will, as the conversation unfolds, we will see the distinction between the two. Why it is a voter's ID and not necessarily a national ID, which is what some persons are advocating, in particular the Prime Minister. And they know why they advocated national ID. Because here again, it's an attempt to mislead, to deceive, and to defraud. Okay? So there are various elements of the reform. You have electors' lists, which is the central part of an electoral process and the reform, that list, that thing you call the electoral list. How does your name get on that list?
Yeah.
Then you have, of course, the voter's ID, you have campaign financing, residency, access to the media, a whole range of things that would form. So I just want to begin the conversation along those lines to make it understand that this electoral reform process that we're talking about is the people's process. It's the people's matter. It does not belong to nobody else. So anyone who wants to put their fingerprint on it and take ownership and say, well, we have already discussed that already. We don't want voters' ID. We want national ID. Or we don't want this or we want that. This is a people's matter. And it goes back to what the brother Lloyd said, Zed said, education, information, civic empowerment, engagement, and action.
True. All right, Alvin, thank you very much for sort of laying the foundation as it were to the conversation we're about to have. What I need us to spend the better part of the hour on tonight is really go down and dissect that topic as it was. So the Dominican people listening here could really understand why we chose that topic so that the necessary information, as Zed spoke about, that is needed on their part, it will be imparted tonight. Alvin, Zed, you were saying something?
Yeah, Lofty, Alvin talked about and I think it's important first before I really think that's important for where we're going. Alvin talked about the people's document and the people's, you see, the issue with us in Dominica is we do not know our constitution. We have not been baptized constitutionally as citizens. You see what I'm saying? I applaud them brothers, man, starting last year before, and Munsera, and them talking about the Constitution. That's like new stuff. You know, we have never come into an understanding of what really is our Constitution. If you do not know your Constitution, the Constitution is ineffectual to you, you know. It is effectual unto you by other people, but it is ineffectual to you as a citizen. And so electoral reform, Lofty, is the process that enables us to be baptized, you know, in Constitution, you know. That is what is critical about. Is the first step, you know, Lofty. Because unless you acquiesce that kind of relationship with your Constitution, the other steps that are necessary for you to develop as nation, as citizens, they will never take place.
Absolutely.
You see, because you're walking on unconscious ground. So it is the transformation of our citizens that has to take place, in that electoral reform. All these ID, all these laws, all these things. The critical thing about electoral reform is the consciousness of the citizens, that they now understand. They have a document that is theirs. They can talk about changing it, having reforms in it. That is theirs, that protects them. They know they can no longer need to belong to a party. They can become a belonging of the nation. You move from partyism to nationalism. Is a beautiful thing. That's what has happened in these other countries that hasn't happened in Dominica. And that is why we're in this level of political polarization, because we have not been nationalized intellectually, consciously as a people. So the ID and all those things, yeah, if we have electoral reform, Lofty, it doesn't matter what ID runs, I'm telling you, if we have electoral reform that is done properly, it doesn't matter what ID runs. But in this madness, it matters.
True.
It matters. So it's that kind of juggling, but we have to focus on it's an indoctrination of our people, a conscious indoctrination. Is that we're supposed to be doing, Lofty? That's why, yeah, but True. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, but just to follow up on your point, Zed, about the importance of the process now. I was going to ask Alvin, and then Zed, you can butt in anytime you feel free to do that. Alvin, there's talk about a national ID card, and there's talk about a voter's ID card. Let us be very basic with the people tonight in terms of their understanding of the importance of what we're talking about. What is the main or fundamental difference, Alvin?
Yeah.
Zed.
Yeah, let me
give these two situations, the voter ID card and a national ID card.
Absolutely, Lofty.
Let's go into that.
Let me just begin by there are several different features, but let me just identify one main feature, which is the purpose. Okay. Yeah. The purpose of a national ID card, it serves as an official identification document for citizens and residents of a country. Yeah, the word that I use.
Repeat that.
It serves as an official identification document for citizens and residents of a country.
So an example of that would be what?
Okay. It is used to establish a person's identity in various forms and contexts, such as, for example, government services, opening a bank account, applying for a passport, or conducting some official transaction. So you have a national ID. So every citizen is entitled to that.
An example of that would be what?
An example of that would be a card that contains your name, a photograph, your date of birth, male, female,
Okay, what I'm saying,
like a driver's license.
Right, a driver's license.
Exactly. Like a driver's license would be a good
passport
example.
Would constitute a national ID.
Exactly, a good example. Yes.
A social security card would constitute a national ID. So we need to be right.
Absolutely.
Now, as you said, Alvin, this is to identify or properly identify citizens of a country.
And let me just add to that. Take a passport, for example. A 5-year-old could have a passport. A 60-year-old could have a passport. A 5-year-old don't vote, but a 5-year-old can have a passport as a national ID identification. Okay. A voter's ID card is specifically used for the purpose of participating in the electoral process, such as voting, national our national elections or village council elections or whatever elections. If you take that on an international level, then that could mean regional, national elections. That's a voter's ID. Now we are in terms of what would contained on a voter's ID card.
Now, just before you get into that, Alvin, I want us to take it step by step. The purpose you said of a national ID is to properly identify citizens. That is very broad.
Citizens or residents, yes.
Good. A voter's ID card now we are talking about, it is to identify people doing what?
It is specifically issued for the purpose of participating in the electoral process. such as voting in your local election or your general election.
Okay, good. Now, having given these two descriptions, Alvin, Zed, do you guys see some flaw, some error in what is being pushed out there now versus what is recommended for an electoral process?
Well, not just, before Zed comes in, not just error, Lofty, not just error, but dishonesty and fraudulent.
Yes, if you want to use a stronger term, I will agree with you, yes.
Fraudulent and dishonest. Because as I said, a 5-year-old could have a passport. It's for a citizens or resident. The voter's ID specifically issued for the purpose of participating in an electoral process. Now, later on, we will connect that with the electors list and other such things that speaks to that voter's ID and what information contained. But go ahead, Zed.
Lofty, in a properly functioning system electorally, the national ID can work, but in a properly functioning system electorally, which means in the ID base would have where you are registered to vote. That would be part of your, so the system, there would be a complete system, computerized system that ensures that you having an ID doesn't mean you can automatically vote. So it can work, but in the system that is being proposed, it is problematic because the system that is being proposed under the guise of the doctor is one where we're calling for all citizens to vote, overriding residency and the national ID. And that is a catastrophe politically. It is a political catastrophe. You see, we have other things we have to take care of. We have to, for instance, end patriotic and voting rights to our economic citizens for that to work. We have to make a distinction as to how we are going to facilitate our diasporans in a manner that is just to people in Dominica and still involved for them. We have to deal with all these issues before we can use an ID, national ID card to vote. So if there is a proper electoral reform process that is doing all the just things, not the political things, the just things, a national ID can work because the system will be structured, whereas everything is coherent. And so that is on data, and you can use that card to vote. But if we're going to run on this kind of thing without checks and balances, it is critical that you have a distinct voter's ID card.
Yeah, so I got the point that you're making. If the system is up and running and it is running correctly, what we have in Dominica Z, we don't have a system that is up and running properly. And that is why we're trying our very best to safeguard that part of our democracy, whereby even if that may come when we have a properly, running and up-to-date system. But for now, we need the basics, and the basic says we need to properly identify ourselves as electors, bona fide electors. And me or you or somebody else having a national ID card, as Alvin outlined earlier, that doesn't necessarily satisfy me having a national ID card, showing up to vote. I am eligible to vote. And that is the crux of the matter. So that is why we are saying, to safeguard that from the get-go. Let us not pussyfoot around and play as if we don't know what we're about. We have to be very, very cognizant of what we're about, what we want out of the process, so that process, it wouldn't just be sort of making it, as the brother said, modernize, but with the same old rigged techniques in there. We have to be very cautious about that.
But Lofty, if I may interject just before Alvin comes in, I'm still thinking that we're operating on the premise that this system is flawed and that we're not having another election with that flawed system. I understand the argument, but I want us to talk about the bigger umbrella argument. We really should not be participating in an election with this flawed system. That should be fundamental.
True.
You see what I'm saying? Because go ahead, Alvin.
Yeah, but let me just say, Zed, I differ with you to some extent on the voters ID and the national ID, because let's go back to the national ID, as we said again. A national ID does not require to have what is called a unique identification number. And that's a number in any electoral process you will find on a voter's electors list. It's what is called a unique identification number that each voter has when he registers to vote as a voter. So the citizen or the resident who has a national ID, and I use the passport as an example for a 5-year-old, does not have a unique identification number. Because when you get registered to vote on the electors list, there are certain requirements that has to be met. Your name, your occupation, your polling district, what polling area you are to vote, your unique identification number. All of that is information on the electors list that's supposed to correspond with your ID when you present at the polling station. So if you have a national ID, like I said, you may have, for example, well, let's use a CBI citizen who may not be registered to vote, but he has a national ID because he's a citizen or resident, if one might say. But there is a qualifying process that you have to go through as a citizen or resident to get on the electors list. Not every citizen. There are some exceptions we know that that can be registered, put it that way, on the electors list. First of all, you have to be 18. If you're under 18, your name can't get on the list. So if you're 16-year-old, you can't be on the electors list to begin with. But if you're 16 years and 15 years, you can have a national ID.
Yeah, but Alvin, where are you going to vote? How are you going to vote? If you're 16, your name and the system is functioning, your name cannot be on that list, to vote,
I'm glad you raised that. I'm glad you raised that, Zed. I'm so glad you raised that. Because the last report from the OAS pointed out so many anomalies as it relates to that list. And people come in having all kind of same names. That one voting in polling district, able to vote in another polling district. So I'm saying if we now allowed a national ID, we're just going to open up ourselves to more areas for fraud.
But we're not allowing a national ID, brother. We allowing a solution. We allowing a solution. Whether we have a national ID or voters ID, we cannot go to the polls with the system as it is. We cannot go. It doesn't work. All these things are going to happen again. So, for instance, you come and you present your ID. This is you. I'm supposed as an elector in the place to be able to simply ask you, what's your voter ID number? I have it on the computer. If the system is structured instantly, it's not your national ID. Your national ID is just to say, this is who I am. Welcome. You can enter. You can come into the polling area. But when you enter the polling house, the polling system takes over of you, the polling system, not the national ID system, the polling system. So in that polling system, through a digital structure, if done properly, you are supposed to be able to identify to be your that same number that you talked about. You cannot go and use that somewhere else, because as soon as you enter that in, the system already locks you in. You can only vote once.
Lofty,
just quickly.
The thing about it, Zed is talking about whether we have a proper running system that can come in. But what we are saying, Zed, is that for the purpose of the conversation tonight, we are not there yet. We are not close to scratch in terms of the other Caribbean regions.
You should not go back to vote if you're not there, Lofty. You should not go back to vote.
So to me tonight, what we should be stressing is, let us stick to the fundamentals, what we need now as the basics as we're moving forward. If, as you say, Zed, the system is so improved that we can sort of tweak it and, whatever, but That, yes. But for now, just for that discussion, the voters ID card, it is critical to us getting off from where we are. So let us use that. Let us push that in terms of trying to sort of confuse the listenership now as to national ID versus voters ID. That is what we're trying to get out of. I am saying that we are saying tonight that the voters ID card, it is specific for voting in an election.
Agreed.
If you are a holder of that voters ID card, as Alvin said, there are some whatever on the card, some specifics, age, name, data, whatever it is. That card supposed to be the holy grail, as it were. When you come inside of there, you present that card. There's supposed to be very, very little obstacles or hindrance as to you casting that ballot. So for the process now to move, that is one of the first things that we need as the basics going into another process that you're saying that we should not allow that sham process to continue. That I agree with you 100%.
But you see, Lofty, just quickly to say though, when Zed in his opening comments, which I said, he made reference of information and education, use the two together, civic engagement and all of that. The mere fact of mentioning national ID, and we are now here in that conversation, as it were, is an attempt to create confusion in the minds of the people.
True, I agree.
That is the attempt to create confusion now.
And that is what we are trying to dispel. If
the electoral process requires a voter ID that meets certain requirements, as obtained elsewhere, because we're not how should I say, the electoral process elsewhere that use voters ID in the manner in which I described the purpose of a voters ID. If then that obtains, why do we throw that red herring in there now? Talking about national ID, create that confusion, even now to have folks say, well, yeah, we can really have a national ID, it's the same thing. Well, it's not much of a difference. This is an attempt, again, to confuse the mind. And that is why we have to go back, as I said, to what Zed said earlier, information. Let's have the correct information and the education on this particular matter. And I agree with Zed. If the process is well done, then we shouldn't be having any
Zed, yeah, Alvin,
but,
let me just to bring to Zed's attention there. Two countries that is within our space. We have St. Kitts and Nevis. Presently, they are using a national ID card system for voting. We have Antigua and Barbuda that I was, up there for the last election. These people are using a voter's ID card for the electoral process. One of the fundamental differences is that in St. Kitts and Nevis, you see that national ID card we spoke about there? St. Kitts has the CIP program as well. And all these people said they are entitled. A matter of fact, they have that card in their possession as we speak.
Who? The foreign,
the Kittitians, yes.
Yeah, but the economic citizens cannot vote because St. Kitts has done the right thing. They have gone to the parliament and they have done the constitutional.
Right. So what I'm saying to you, Zed, what now would be the purpose of introducing a national ID system to Dominica for our electoral process? Give all and sundry that card, and then now to have to go after and decide who to vote, who not to vote with that ID card.
So that is why I'm telling you, Lofty, and I'm glad you come to that point. And that's what I'm saying. That is the opportunity I think we missed in that window of Byron. That is the opportunity I think we missed. We kept talking about a ID and a list. Man, that is minimal in the electoral reform process. The things that we're supposed to, the empowerment things, we have not spoken about them. And that is one of those things. So you cannot have an electoral reform process without having constitutional reform. You cannot. Because if we do not have constitutional reforms, we are going to fail in that electoral reform process. It's that simple. So Lofty, I say the confusion is nitpicking the package. We have to take an absolute posture on this issue of elections in Dominica for us to get a change.
Zed, I understand you, brother, with the posture that we have to take. You're looking at this thing. I am getting. I may be wrong from a more holistic standpoint. You're talking about, you know, the sensitization of the citizenry, the constitution, and if we have it up and running to a certain extent, that will not happen. That will happen. That wouldn't go through. That will go through. I understand that, Zed. But where we are in Dominica, Zed, we are not off the ground 1 foot as yet. So what we are trying, where we are trying to get, Zed, is where Antigua was in 2007, 2005. That's where they were. We are not even there as yet where they were in 2008. And so now to try to give us some more advanced system that we may not able to, you know, navigate through as we speak, it is going to confuse the people more. And as Alvin said, that is why that phrase electoral modernization was put out there. It is to confuse, it is to deceive a people into letting them think that, hey, St. Kitts have national ID card, so we can have it too. But at the end of the exercise, how that benefit us in Dominica in terms of issuing that national ID, where St. Kitts people, they already have checks and balances long time ago set in their system that these persons cannot vote. You understand?
Lofty, St. Kitts has checks and balances because the people of St. Kitts stood up for their checks and balances. They stood up for it.
Are we standing up, Zed? Are we standing up
If
sufficiently?
we don't stand up, the voters' ID will get rigged also. If we don't stand up, voters' ID that you're calling for will get rigged also if we don't stand up.
Well, that is true. That is true. I agree with you, Zed, on that. I agree. And that is why I began my comments this evening by referencing the Constitution and the fact that that process, the entire process that we're looking at, this whole question of electoral reform process belongs to the people. And I will also agree with you that we have to take a holistic approach to dealing with it and not necessarily cherry picking and saying, well, hey, voters ID versus national ID, electors list, or this one issue, that issue. We have to take a whole holistic approach to it, because what is
yes. So sorry, somebody's on the line. Let me just try and access that person on the line, please. Yes, caller, good evening. You're on the program Civic Vibes. Go right on.
Good evening, Lofty. It's me again.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Zed, greetings. The brother Alvin.
Yeah, greetings, brother. Greetings.
I hail you up already, but Lofty, you know, I realize, right? Every country is unique. You know, something might work well for St. Kitts or Antigua or anywhere else, and it might not work for us in Dominica because of our unique situation. We have a system in Dominica that is so deep in corruption and in fraud in lies that the issue of the ID card and the national ID card and the voters card is very, 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 very important, but it could be tricky. They're trying to use the national ID card as a loophole to continue bringing folks from anywhere to vote, because once you have a national ID card, you could vote. But if you have a voter's ID card, it's only you alone permitted to vote. And in Dominica, if you don't have a voter's ID card, what we are saying is that you shouldn't be able to vote. That is why it is important for every person that is eligible and qualified to vote, have that vote, just especially for voting, because of our unique situation, in that we have people with different addresses, people with two names. they have a name before they married and a name after they married. Or you could list St. Joseph and go down to Salisbury or list St. Joseph Grande and vote. That is why the voter's ID card is important, because it lines up with the residency requirement. What polling district you reside in. And if you reside in Maho, you shouldn't be able to vote in Salisbury. You have to go to Maho to vote. So I think for our situation in Dominica, we deserve a voter's ID card. Then because that process is a process that grows. You know, it's an evolving process. It's not a one-time thing. You know, we could always make improvement. But for now, give everybody the voter ID card and let people. That will eliminate a lot of the corruption, because we're so deep in it. Thank you, Lofty.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much
Yeah.
indeed. All right,
Lofty,
thank you,
could
Paula.
I answer this, please?
Yes. Whilst you're answering that, let us try to put up on the screen now an actual voter's ID card for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Go right ahead, Zed. We're gonna try to load that on the screen.
You Lofty and Brother Marley, here's what I would like you to think of for a minute. You're making the voters list and the national ID list identical lists. These things are not identical lists. The voters list is already supposed to be verified by the Electoral Commission, addressed residency, all these things. Your national ID card does not put you on the residency list, does not put you on the voters list, you know. Your national ID card allows you to say, this is me. Whether this is you or whatever, if you have not met the conditions to be on the voters list for voting in that election, your national ID card means nothing in the election, you know. Understand that clearly. They're not taking a voting list out of a national ID computer. The voters list is an independent list. So even if you have the national ID and you come in there and you're not certified to vote, you're not supposed to be able to vote. So I get the argument, but we are lining the list as if they may be parallel, but they're not identical. I just want us to see that distinction.
All right, Zed, yes, thanks. What we're gonna try to do now is to put share our screen now with you guys out there, so that you can see exactly a template, or an example of a card that the people of Antigua and Barbuda are using presently to go to the polls. All right, so what we have on the screen, Zed, are you seeing that screen?
Yeah, man, yeah, man.
Okay, good. So that is the front of the card, Alvin. That is the front of the card, public. It basically says on top there, elector identification card. And that is critical. That phrase is critical. Elector identification card. Then the person had to cover the information, but I will go through it so we can know. It says here, the very first inscription on there is elector number. And that is where I want to give Alvin his kudos, in that Alvin kept mentioning before about that unique identifier number, which upon registering as an elector, that number, that specific number is assigned to Z, is assigned to Alvin, is assigned to Joe. So you see there, Z, they have that number right up.
And that is the number that the electoral process should be asking you after you have identified yourself that you are that person. That
right.
is the number they should be asking you.
Right. So the importance of that number is placed high on the agenda on the Antigua and Barbuda people's voting ID card. Next, we have the surname of that individual. It's inscribed there. Under the surname, and then we have the name or names, if they have one name or two names or whatever name. So that comes on there. Below that, we come down to the sex of that individual, male or female. And then the date of birth is at the bottom. The large area that you see in there, well, it is to my left. I think it is to your right, those people who are watching. That is a photo, a recent photo, most recent photo of that elector right there. And then there is a space for that elector to sign under their photo. All right? So that at the end of the exercise, you have a facial configuration right there of the person, plus their signature ascribed under their facial insignia. If we move across is also another photo of the person, but that photo, I was being told, it basically is a smaller version, a black and white version of the original. And they were giving me the reasons why they had it smaller in black. And I think some inscriptions are in there as well that could even further identify the same person, that same elector on that card. Under there, we have the date of expiry. So that card has an expiry date. In that person's case, their card will be expiring on the 15th of April, 2024. And below all that information, it is the signature of whoever is assigned by the state or by the electoral commission, that is, to issue those cards. So that is the front aspect of the voter's ID card in Antigua and Barbuda. All right. Let us, in the interest of time, let us flip that card and go to the back of that card now. In a while, the back should be coming up in just a bit. All right, so at the back of that card, it basically says occupation at the back, whatever the person's occupation is. And that is what, as I said, presently Antigua and Barbudans are using to vote as their voter's ID card. It is not a national ID card. The address of the person, as you can see, there's Casa de Gardens number 4. And also at the back of that card is another photo of that same individual. Again, I was told that in that photo, it's embedded some kind of inscriptions there that could even further. So apart from the two at the front, the one at the back could also do some vetting or proof, or proofing, that is, as to whether that card holder is the holder by and large. We also have a serial number at the back here. That serial number, I'm being told, it is for the official records, that is, of the Electoral Commission issuing that card. So it's like with that serial number, the card itself can be tracked from the electoral office standpoint. All right. And then below there is the rest of the official information that is inscribed on there. I guess that is for official information from the electoral office standpoint in Antigua and Barbuda. So Zed, at least that is where we are trying to get in the whole scheme of things. If we have that, Zed, where Antigua is at now, I am saying the process that we have been going through, whereby it has been manipulated over and over, some of the manipulations will be much less.
But Antigua got those things. Antigua got those things. They didn't get them handed to them on a plate.
No,
they
we're not saying that.
Because people were willing to go into the streets. People were willing to agitate. That's why they got those things. Absolutely. So at the end of the day, we still come back to where we have to be, which is we have to get those things. And it's very important that we get them, because if they're given to you, the liberation and the consciousness does not take place. That's why everything you see, you have to take it, really and truly, you have to take it, because when you take it, you become an empowered citizen. That is the transformation that Dominica is missing, Anytime the people come into a consciousness of empowered citizen, Dominica changes.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you, Zed. I'm 100% on board with you with that. And as it goes back to to the earlier comment of civic engagement, action, and empowerment. I agree absolutely. And the question which I would pose now is that we know who have been stealing the elections over the years. And the guy who's been stealing the elections over the years is insisting that he wants national ID card. That's what I want. That's what we want. This voters ID thing is out of the window. And we need to ask the question, well, why would the guy who is thieving this thing all the time, going with the bag of money, is saying that, insisting that that is what we want? Doesn't that raise your eyebrow? Why would you want that? That's the $1 million question. And I agree with what you said, the process is good then, so may not happen. But why would this individual insist that's what he wants? Because as I said again, there's a question of dishonesty, lack of transparency, and most so confusion in the minds of the people. When you're able to create confusion, the question of information, empowerment, and all of that goes out of the window, because now people are now, are confused. We are doing what we are doing here today with the intention, I hope, to provide some information to those listening and those who will be seeing this program later on, and at the same time doing a certain level of education. But the intention on the other side, which is insisting on that, is to create a certain level of confusion in the minds of the people. And when the minds are confused and uninformed and uneducated, then in same vein, you're not engaged. You don't have that civic engagement that we talk about. You're not aware of your rights under the Constitution, that this is yours. And I will agree with you. I have said so before, that now is the time for Dominicans to take their electoral reform. It's no longer a question of waiting for someone to give it to them, because under the Constitution, again, if we go back to that document, it says clearly who shall be responsible for elections in Dominica. Who shall? It doesn't say may. Who shall be responsible for elections? And this is not a matter that belongs to any one political party, Labour Party, UWP, Freedom Party, or whatever. Yes, they may have a vested interest in the matter, but it does not belong to them. It belongs to the people of Dominica. Yeah. And it's time that the people of Dominica take this matter, take and engage and take the appropriate action, and ensure that there is a holistic approach to dealing with this question of electoral reform.
Yeah. Zed, just before you come in here, let me tell you, or let me alert the listeners rather, why I believe that, one of the reasons I believe that there is this sort of back and forth as it pertains to having a freer and fairer process. When you hear people from the government side of things that speak about electoral reform, you are hearing one thing, and that one thing that is resonating with the base, it is these guys are talking about reforms to remove your party from power. That is the bottom line, the conversation that is the sentiment rather that is being conveyed. When you hear that same electoral reform conversation from an opposition end, be it party or some persons who have an agenda, you hear contrary to that, in that you are hearing coming through in very subtle ways. Let us use that process to remove the Dominica Labour Party and install another party. And to me, that is one of our demise where that conversation is concerned. We needed to cross that threshold a while back. Take it out from that partisan mess. because we are much too divided among, as Zed said before, the political lines, the partisan lines. So a labor right, a born and a Poto labor right will not even listen to a conversation about electoral reform, because in their mind, it is to take out their party from power. A United Workers Party supporter will be pushing it, or an opposition party member will be pushing, because in their mind, they say, you know something, that is one of the ways we can get out the Dominica Labour Party to get in. And that shouldn't be the tone and the vibe of the discussion. That should be labor rights, freedom rights, UWP rights, no rights should come around a table and hear a conversation and understand and say, okay, you know something, electoral reform means a better Dominica. Electoral reform means a better future for the country. Electoral reform means the process is being made fairer and freer. So at the end of the exercise, may the best party win. So that, to me, that is where now the consciousness, as you spoke of before, needs to be had. That is where we need to, is on that plane. We have to try to get to the conversation, to make Dominicans on electoral reform is a good thing for the country, and it is as a result of 1, 2, 3, 4. And not through that political or partisan prism.
Lofty, at the beginning, I talked to you about the idea of dialectical analysis. We used to have these book clubs, you know, at Georgia Tech, you know, discuss revolutionary books, all kinds of things. To the people outside of us, they would think, well, these guys just. But what they didn't understand, we were processing the process of dialectical analysis. And here's what dialectical analysis enables you to do. It enables you to look at the situation spherically. And so you can now decide to choose your points of entry. So your points of entry can be agitatory, it can be complementary, it can be, you can choose your points of entry. What has been happening in Dominica is oppositional forces have not been choosing their points of entry in the dialogue. They have had a reactionary process continually, consistently. So the answer is to what Roosevelt Scary points out. The answer is, and so we come with the object to Roosevelt Scary. I say it is the object that continues the polarization. It is the object that amplifies the polarization. It is the object that reinforces this disconnect. You have to choose complementary processing. You see that issue, that national ID? I would play his game under the because it allows me to have a conversation beyond the ID on the conditions of the election. So if we're going to have that national ID, A, B, C, and D must be addressed. Instead of just we against the national ID and we fighting, and the fighting doesn't benefit us because we don't have the power. So we will talk and talk and talk, and it still get passed. That is a national ID. I'm saying we have to choose different angles in dealing with Roosevelt Scary. And here is one of those angles. And that is where that analysis spherically enables you to do these things. That reactionary process that is going on in Dominica is not benefiting our movement, Lofty. It is not benefiting the movement.
Lofty, I know our time is quickly approaching on us, but let me just say though, just to make a comment in light of what Brother Zeda just said.
Let me just Alvin, just take a pin there. Let me just take some comments from the live feed, because some persons are there, you know, engaging us, and we also want them to feel part and parcel of the conversation as well, and then you'll come in. David Joseph here says, if in a democratic system rather, anyone believes that a party should be in power forever, then it shows that the people do not understand politics, nor they understand democracy, period. That is what Mr. Joseph is saying here.
Real talk.
Marcelin was right. If Dominicans were serious about the democracy, the rogue regime, the rogue government could never speak on electoral reform with appetite for political buffoonery. Okay, that is Marcelin Edwards speaking here. Thank you, Marcelin, for your comment. For a better Dominica, that is what Juanita Prince says. Peter Carbon says, Z is helping the confusion. Antoine George says, Dominica economic citizens should not be allowed to vote in our elections. No way, Jose. Emmanuel Bertrand says, we need to avoid using words like national ID during that process. Let me see if I could take a comment from someone else here. John Bernard James writes, can Z explain this scenario? St. Kitts and Nevis, I think I touched on that earlier. St. Kitts and Nevis has a national ID. Antigua has a voter's ID. Why does he think that the national ID card is more suitable for Dominica? Zed, do you want to take a shot at that?
Lofty, it's if you starting at the ID, you will have all these things. I'm not starting at the ID. I am saying Dominica has a flawed electoral process. And if we as a people who are concerned about our electoral process are not ready to address the electoral process, then we're going to fail at the ID process.
Okay,
it is the electoral process. And if we address the electoral process, the ID will work.
We are not hearing you for some reason, Zed, we are not hearing you.
He's muted. He went mute. His mic is muted. Zed, your mic is muted.
Unmute your mic, Zed. We are not hearing you. Yes, we're hearing you now. Yes, right there.
Am I there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you understand? So I'm not, people do not like, people want song bites, man. I don't do song bites. I want solution. I don't do song bites. If you are going into an election in Roosevelt Scary under the conditions in Dominica currently, it doesn't matter what ID card you have going into that election. It will be a fraud election against you. That we have to talk about.
So we got that point, Zed. So what you're saying, there should you're in agreement with the thousands who keep saying there ought not to be any more general elections under this flawed process. End of story.
It cannot work.
Okay, good. Dave Bertrand is asking you, Zed, another question here. How many Dominicans understand dialectical, yes, materialism? That's a phrase that you used a while ago.
Well, my brother, I'm hoping sometimes if we discuss that people can go and do some extra reading. I'm hoping we're here for teaching, that it doesn't just stop when the television goes off. That, people can, that's what we want to do. Right now, our people are not reading. We used to read. We used to read, man. I grew up in a country that was reading. We used to read. So you online, you have the whole library of the world at your fingertips, punch in the term, check it out, analyze it, check the concepts. That's what we hear. We're trying to open up minds. Help us. Help us, man. It's easy to find these terms and understand them online, man.
All right. All right. It is already 10 minutes past. We officially started around 15 past. So we have like 5 more minutes to bring it up. Alvin, yes, you were saying something.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to make that comment as well in light of what Zed said a little earlier. Politicians have a way of creating confusion in the minds of the people. And that's why I always maintain the point that this electoral reform is way beyond any one political party. If we sit there and believe that the Labour Party is going to get to us, or the ERB is going to get, or it's a Freedom Party thing, then we're losing the big objective. Politicians have a way of confusing the minds of the people. I mean, Zed lives in the US, I'm in the US, and we see it right in the US. I mean, we can see how confusing that some of the leaders make statements and create things just to further confuse the people. And that is why I believe, and I agree with him, that we should not now be maybe just dealing with voters or national ID in isolations or even campaign finance or whatever thing. We need to look at the holistic approach to the reform. And it goes back again to the point that he made, civic engagement at that level, and letting the people understand it is their business. I would want to think, and maybe Lofty, you could share some information on that. It is my understanding that you have what is called an ERC, which stands for Electoral Reform Coalition, which is made up of several different organizations.
It's coalition.
Coalition. Okay.
We're
All
not
right.
colliding anyway. No.
Okay.
Although it may seem like that, but it's coalition.
I know. So it would seem to me that seems to be the ideal umbrella, if one might put it this way, to provide the information to the people, to educate the people, to drive the process. Because within that umbrella, as I understand it, are various civic organizations as well as political organizations, if I'm correct, as I said.
Yes, you are spot on.
So this is where we have to drive. The question of any one political party trying to take this and say, run with it, whether it's Labour now with Skerrit saying, well, I don't want voters, I want national ID, or UWP saying, well, this or whatever. That is not to say, don't get me wrong and misquote me now. That is not to say that individual political party do not have some vested interest in ensuring that the process evolves in the way it should. What I'm saying is based on Zed's earlier and introductory comments, is that for that kind of civic engagement that we are talking about, that empowerment of the people, and I again like to always go back to my constitution, the ERC seems to be the appropriate organ to drive that process. And therefore, when we have politicians coming and creating confusion in the minds of the people, because that's what it's creating. As I said, the only reason that we are discussing this is to kind of inform and educate. But the intention, as we know on the other side, is to confuse, to steal, to confuse, to be non-transparent, to be dishonest. Because this matter of electoral reform, if we had the people now of Dominica had taken the cue from the CCJ report 2 years ago, or whenever that report was issued, and the CCJ said, hey guys, I'm telling you now, they raise the flag and they say, hey guys, do not go back into another election until this matter is resolved. Do not. That was the message to the people of Dominica. But guess what? The same dishonest Dominica Labour Party, not even sure if it's a party really. It may not even be a political party. It's more like a gang or a cult. Went ahead and called a snap election, and Dominican just, play dead, roll over, and here we are again today, discussing something that we've been discussing for the last 15 more years.
That statement
so again, my appeal is for the people of Dominica, through, as I said, that ERC, to take this matter into their hands and to move forward aggressively and demand electoral reform.
All right, thank you, Alvin. We are spot on the morning in terms of ending time. So we're gonna move across now to Zed. Zed, any final comments, my brother, read the discussion we're having tonight?
Well, brother, guess where the program started tonight? The program started on youth and kids and a nation that apparently seems not able to take care of its kids. And look at Kanisha, Lofty. Look at Kanisha. We couldn't get mothers in Dominica to unite because of a kid. They couldn't unite because of political polarization on the issue of children. We couldn't get the legal system to act because mothers, fathers, concerned citizens could not come in mass and say, listen, we need answers for Kanisha. And why couldn't they come? Because they have excuses. Is the PMI, is the this, is the that. Lofty, so imagine where we are on electoral reform, a non-emotional issue. A harder hill to climb. You understand? The harder the hill is, the more you have to dig your feet. Lofty, if we keep talking about the big thing and we don't do the little steps in process, we are not going to achieve. We are going to come back with the same thing every time, that Roosevelt Skerrit finds his way no matter how much we talk. The little things have to be done. I like the idea of the 3 months thing that Lennox advocated on that outing. I like the idea. whether it was a political party or not, that's not the issue. But the fact it gave a sense of window of urgency. And I think we should collectively work in that ERC or as independent groups or whatever, and start having the extra conversation with the people, not the reactionary conversation to Roosevelt's Kerry, the informative conversation with the people. Start off that radio, because the radio is not going to cut it in that 3 months time. Now he's meeting the palm. Now he's talking to people. Now he's approaching labor rights. Now we stop calling them stupid. Now we stop. We have to think and start acting in a complementary process if we want to succeed with this movement, brother. A complementary process. Our arguments have to be thought in more complementary tones. It's a transformation that has to take place for us to ride that hill of political polarization so we can get some sense of justice in governance in the country. I think that is critical. Let's see if we can make it happen over the next 3 months. You know, we out there in diaspora willing to help, you know, contribute however we can. You know it is. I'm so there.
True. All right, Brother Zed, thank you, my brother. I know there's much more in the tank, but, you know.
God bless.
Time constraint, we have to cut it down to size tonight. But you're always welcome to be part and parcel of shaping that narrative, shaping that conversation as we move forward. Thank you, brother.
God bless.
Lofty, just quickly though, I saw Marshall was asking a question there. I don't know if you read it too. He says, Alvin, do you know, does the Constitution allow Dominicans to form any observer team credible as that of the OAS, the OECS, and the Commonwealth?
No, that is just common practice among Caribbean countries.
Yeah, so yeah, the Constitution does not, except though, of course, in Section 11 of the Constitutions, allow individuals to form association to protect their interests, and that includes trade unions. But in terms of the specifics that the question asked, it doesn't allow, okay? But Section 11 does say that you can form yourself in a body. And it talks about in Section 10 and Section 9, freedom of expression and that type of thing. That's why it goes back again to the people, you know. But Lofty, in closing though, let me just say briefly, very quickly, there was a caller on Matt program, I think earlier this week, who called, I think his brother Len, he normally calls, and he made reference to D-Day. The 6th of June was observed as D-Day, and without necessarily going into the whole history of it. But basically what it was when the various countries, folks who were today enemies became allies. Europe, Soviet Union, United States, China, the whole bunch of them came together to fight one common enemy. Who was that? Hitler. Because they realized if they had let this man continue the way it was, there would be, you know, that'd be the end of it. And I'm saying, and he used the analogy, that caller, to say, well, hey, what is the common enemy? And herein lies the fact that we have to build some kind of alliances and come together to, one, defeat whoever that common enemy is that undermines our democracy, our political process. And that is why I'm making the appeal again in this program for Civic Vibes to make sure that ERC, the collision, the electoral reform collision spearheads the effort to ensure that our electoral reform process will take root and like Zed said, within the time frame as the president of the UWP indicated during the rally that they had, that within a 3-month time frame, by August, for example, that we can have a much better traction and positive results than what we currently have at this point in time.
Talking to a friend, or next door neighbor. Right, I felt a bit. Our grandson had been arraigned. He was involved in a recent murder. So I was listening intensely to what my granny was telling. She watch a party cup of tea. Do not despair, typical grandmother. Just you keep the candle burning. say a little prayer. God does never give us more than we can bear.
All right, Dominicans, and that is the line there from Father John Branca, basically telling us, let's keep that candle burning, huh? Let us keep the candle burning for our country for freer and a fairer process re-elections in Dominica. All right, Dominicans, that is it for the program that you got tonight here from the 6 o'clock hour.
So there'll be no more murder and suicide.
Special thank you to Tanya Dixon, who were our first guest tonight.
A new direction for the nation today.
Took us through the program of how we can help protect our children out there.
Me, do you believe in miracles?
So Ms. Dixon, thank you very much for you and your team. We wish you guys all the success therein. And yes, Dominicans, the second segment, yes, Brother Zed Lloyd, Alvin Thomas and myself, and as well you in the listening and viewing audience, we made it happen together. We are keeping the candles burning, as Brother Branca John is alluding in song. So Dominicans, see you next week Sunday, same time, same place from the 6 o'clock hour with another topic of national importance.
Long enough to know.
So until that time, bye-bye. We love you.
We lost a lovely Lion River. Though each way they blow again and again, yet we've survived so many hurricanes. Outside forces never control we. We stand proud even in poverty. There is no country that is more resilient than we. Oh, Lord. So I woke up this morning, found myself singing this song. Give me candles burning, that will overcome this crisis and restore security and peace. Give me candles burning. Give me candles burning. So we'll plan in case of emergency, minimize loss of life and property. Oh, a new direction for the nation to the next millennium. So tell me if you believe in miracles, then light a candle. Idiotic we have put on Nick. Give me candles burning. La, 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 la. Our society has changed, our own children acting so strange. Parents today don't parent again. Chronic limit on migration, rampant public corruption and immoral nonsense shown on television. She blame mapping for not caring and government for not censoring. It's getting worse as I get it old. Now the police playing a double role. She said churches must stop politicking, preachers practice what they're preaching, and help all parents to save their children's souls. Oh, Lord. Everywhere I went this morning, I found myself singing this song. Give me candles burning for the children who go astray. Papa God will show them.